We live in a world that glorifies perfection. From glossy magazine covers to curated social media feeds, we are surrounded by images of flawless lives, flawless people, and flawless love stories. It's no wonder, then, that so many of us internalize this narrative and begin to search for perfection in others, particularly in a partner. The idea that someone exists who will fit seamlessly into our lives, meet every expectation, and never falter is intoxicating. But like any illusion, it dissolves upon closer inspection, often leaving behind disappointment and confusion. When choosing a partner, the pursuit of perfection can be a trap. It begins innocently enough a checklist of qualities you believe a perfect partner must have. Perhaps they need to be charming, successful, attractive, or share every single one of your interests. Over time, this checklist grows longer and more rigid, and anything or anyone who deviates from it is discarded. What we don't realize in this process is that the checklist is not a guide, it's a barrier. It prevents us from seeing people as they truly are, reducing them to a set of traits rather than embracing the fullness of their humanity. Perfection, as we imagine it, does not exist. People are complex, layered, and flawed. They come with histories, insecurities, and imperfections just as we do. Expecting someone to live up to an ideal is not only unrealistic but also unfair. It places undue pressure on the other person and sets the stage for inevitable disappointment. No one can sustain the role of being perfect forever, and when cracks appear in the facade, we might feel betrayed not because they've failed us, but because we've clung too tightly to the illusion. This quest for perfection often blinds us to the beauty of imperfection. True connection lies not in finding someone who ticks every box, but in discovering someone whose flaws we can understand and whose challenges we are willing to navigate together. Imperfection is not a weakness, it is the raw material from which growth, intimacy, and love are forged. When we accept another's imperfections, we give them the space to be authentic, and in return we invite them to accept us in the same way. Ironically, the pursuit of perfection is often rooted in fear of vulnerability, fear of failure, and fear of pain. By seeking a flawless partner, we believe we can protect ourselves from the heartbreaks and challenges that love sometimes brings. But love, real love, is inherently vulnerable. It requires us to face not only the other person's imperfections, but also our own. It is in this mutual acceptance that love deepens and becomes meaningful. Another consequence of the perfection illusion is that it can rob us of the present moment. When we are constantly searching for someone better, we fail to appreciate the people who stand before us. We judge them not for who they are, but for who they are not. In doing so, we miss the opportunity to build something genuine. A perfect partner will not appear as a finished masterpiece. They will be someone willing to grow, change, and learn alongside us. Ultimately, the illusion of perfection is a distraction from what truly matters in relationships: connection, empathy, and shared humanity. It is not our partner's job to complete us or fulfill every need we have. Instead, it is our responsibility to approach love with humility, recognizing that imperfection is a universal condition. When we let go of the need for perfection, we free ourselves to experience love in its truest form: messy, unpredictable, and profoundly real. It is in this space, unshackled from illusions, that love finds its greatest expression. Chemistry is often seen as the magic spark that ignites a connection between two people. It's the electricity in the air, the intense pull that makes you feel as though you've known someone forever, even though you've just met. The laughter that comes effortlessly, the glances that speak volumes, the conversation that flows as if it's been rehearsed in some cosmic script. It's thrilling, magnetic, and often mistaken for something deeper than it truly is. But what happens when that initial burst of chemistry fades? What's left is the question of compatibility, the foundation on which a lasting relationship is built. In our search for love, we often confuse chemistry with compatibility, believing that the initial thrill is all that matters. Chemistry can create an emotional high, a sense of exhilaration that convinces us we've found something real. It's easy to mistake this powerful attraction for the kind of connection that will sustain a long-term relationship. After all, if two people are so drawn to each other, shouldn't they be destined to stay together? But the truth is, while chemistry can be a wonderful beginning, it is not enough to weather the storms of life, the challenges, and the inevitable changes that relationships undergo. The danger of confusing chemistry with compatibility lies in how we tend to prioritize the intense attraction over the more subtle but essential aspects of a partnership. Chemistry is often built on surface-level traits, physical appearance, shared interests, or even the way someone makes you feel in the moment. It can blind us to the more practical concerns of compatibility, such as shared values, emotional maturity, and the ability to communicate effectively. These are the qualities that determine whether a relationship can grow and evolve into something sustainable. Compatibility is about how two people interact when the spark fades and the honeymoon period ends. It's about whether they can navigate the complexities of life together, whether they can manage conflict, support each other through hardships, and grow as individuals and as a couple. It's about the ways in which they complement each other, not in the sense of completing each other, but in the sense of understanding, supporting, and respecting each other's unique needs and desires. While chemistry can make us feel alive and passionate, compatibility is what gives that passion room to thrive in the long run. One of the key mistakes we make when confusing chemistry with compatibility is overlooking the deeper, often less glamorous aspects of a relationship. Chemistry may bring two people together, but it's compatibility that allows them to stay together through thick and thin. A couple may share an intense connection, but if their lifestyles, values, and long-term goals do not align, the relationship will struggle to endure. It's essential to ask questions that go beyond surface-level attraction. Do we want the same things in life? Can we communicate honestly and openly with each other? Do we respect each other's boundaries and differences? Furthermore, chemistry can sometimes mask red flags or potential areas of conflict. The excitement of a strong attraction may make us overlook behaviors or habits that, in the long run, may cause tension or even harm. A person who may seem perfect in the heat of chemistry may reveal aspects of their personality or behavior later on that are incompatible with your own. And while chemistry may be quick to ignite, it is compatibility that gives the relationship the depth and resilience needed to grow over time. The challenge is to recognize that both chemistry and compatibility are important, but they serve different purposes. Chemistry might bring two people together, but it is compatibility that allows them to stay together. And while chemistry is fleeting and can sometimes feel all-consuming, compatibility is a slow burn, a steady flame that provides warmth and stability over time. Ultimately, it's essential to balance the excitement of chemistry with a clear understanding of what true compatibility looks like. It's not about settling for someone who doesn't light you up, it's about understanding that love, in its truest form, requires more than just attraction. It requires shared values, mutual respect, and a commitment to navigating the complexities of life together. In the end, compatibility is the soil in which love grows, and without it, even the strongest chemistry will wither. In our search for a partner, it's easy to forget that the journey starts within. We often look outward, seeking someone who will fulfill our desires, complete us, or provide us with the happiness we think we lack. We search for someone to reflect our ideals, our dreams, or even our fantasies of who we want to be. But in doing so, we ignore a crucial step, the act of looking into the mirror within. When we fail to look inward, we risk choosing a partner based on an idealized version of ourselves rather than the real, imperfect person we truly are. This disconnect between who we are and who we think we need can lead to unfulfilling relationships and ultimately leave us feeling lost or dissatisfied. The concept of the mirror within is a powerful one. It suggests that before seeking someone else to complement our lives, we must first come to terms with ourselves, our needs, desires, insecurities, and aspirations. Too often, however, we get caught in the whirlwind of external expectations. Society, friends, family, and media bombard us with ideas of what love should look like, what kind of partner we should seek, and how a relationship should feel. These external pressures shape the way we view ourselves and what we believe we need in another person. In many cases, we find ourselves reaching for someone who embodies the qualities we think we lack or need to feel whole, only to realize that we've overlooked the most important aspect of all, our own sense of self-worth and self-acceptance. Ignoring the mirror within means ignoring the deep work of self-awareness. It means overlooking the fact that the relationships we attract are often a reflection of the relationship we have with ourselves. If we do not understand our own needs, we are less likely to communicate them clearly in a relationship. If we do not love ourselves, we may find it difficult to accept love from another person in a healthy way. The person we choose to partner with is in many ways a reflection of how we see ourselves. If we struggle with self-doubt, we may unconsciously choose partners who mirror that insecurity, reinforcing a cycle of dependence and low self-worth. If we have unresolved emotional wounds, we may seek someone who inadvertently triggers those wounds, leading to conflict or emotional pain. When we don't take the time to look inward and understand who we are, we may also fail to recognize what we truly need in a partner. We might confuse the desire for excitement with the need for stability or mistaking physical attraction for emotional compatibility. We might overlook warning signs of toxic behavior, excusing them because the chemistry feels so good in the moment. But when we are grounded in our own sense of self, we are better able to identify the qualities that truly matter. We can discern whether a partner aligns with our values, respects our boundaries, and supports our personal growth. The mirror within provides clarity about what we want and need from a relationship, and it allows us to enter into partnerships not from a place of lack or neediness, but from a place of completeness and self-assurance. One of the most profound consequences of ignoring the mirror within is that it leads us to seek fulfillment outside of ourselves. We mistakenly believe that a partner can complete us, fix our problems, or somehow make us whole. But no one person can bear the weight of our emotional well-being or our dreams. True fulfillment comes from within, through self-reflection, personal growth, and emotional maturity. When we are whole within ourselves, we are more capable of entering into healthy, balanced relationships where both partners are free to be their authentic selves without the burden of unmet emotional needs. Moreover, self-awareness gives us the strength to let go of relationships that no longer serve us. When we know ourselves, we are less likely to settle for less than we deserve. We are better equipped to recognize when we are compromising our values or settling for a partner who doesn't align with our life's path. Ignoring the mirror within often leads to complacency, staying in relationships out of fear, obligation, or convenience, rather than choosing a partner who genuinely enhances our lives. In the pursuit of love and partnership, we are often told to trust our hearts, our instincts, and our feelings. Yet in many relationships we end up ignoring a more subtle and important guide, our inner voice. This voice, quiet yet persistent, offers us wisdom that comes not from fleeting emotions or external influences, but from a deeper understanding of who we are and what we truly need. When we neglect this inner voice, we risk losing sight of our authentic desires, values, and boundaries. We may find ourselves making choices that don't align with our true selves, leading to disappointment, confusion, and even heartbreak. The inner voice is that quiet whisper in the back of our minds, the sense of knowing that nudges us toward the right path, even when it's not the most popular or obvious one. It is not loud or forceful, and often it gets drowned out by the noise of everyday life, societal expectations, the opinions of others, or our own insecurities. When choosing a partner, this inner voice might try to tell us something important, but we may ignore it in favor of external validation or the overwhelming pull of chemistry and desire. We might hear the voice say, "This person isn't right for me," but we push it aside, convincing ourselves that it's just doubt or fear. Or perhaps we overlook red flags, choosing to focus on what we want to believe rather than what we know deep down. One of the reasons we ignore our inner voice is that it often requires us to step into discomfort. Our intuition may warn us about something that doesn't feel quite right, but confronting it can be difficult. It might mean ending a relationship we've invested time and energy into, or walking away from someone who, on the surface, appears to be everything we've ever wanted. The truth, however, is that our inner voice isn't concerned with what we want in the moment, it's concerned with what is best for us in the long term. When we choose to ignore it, we risk making decisions based on temporary emotions, desires, or fears rather than on what aligns with our true selves. Another reason we neglect our inner voice is that we fear being alone. The fear of loneliness can sometimes cloud our judgment, making us settle for relationships that don't truly serve us. We might ignore our inner voice simply because it tells us the painful truth that we are not truly happy, that this relationship isn't working, or that we deserve more. This discomfort leads us to put up with situations that we know deep down aren't right, simply to avoid facing the fear of solitude. Yet the truth is, it is often better to be alone than to be in a relationship that leaves us feeling empty or unfulfilled. Our inner voice is telling us that we deserve better, and ignoring it only prolongs the inevitable. By neglecting our inner voice, we also deny ourselves the chance to grow. Relationships are meant to challenge us, to help us evolve and become better versions of ourselves. But when we ignore our intuition, we limit our ability to learn and grow from the experiences that relationships offer. Our inner voice pushes us to set boundaries, to speak up for ourselves, and to choose what is truly aligned with our values. If we silence that voice, we miss out on the opportunity to make decisions that will contribute to our long-term happiness and emotional well-being. Listening to our inner voice takes practice and patience. It requires us to pause and reflect, to tune out the noise of external pressures, and to be honest with ourselves about what we truly want and need. It's about trusting that we have the wisdom within us to make the right choices, even when those choices are difficult or uncomfortable. When we listen to our inner voice, we are not just making decisions about who we want to be with, we are choosing to honor our own self-respect and well-being. Ultimately, the voice within us knows the truth. It guides us toward the people who are right for us, and it warns us when we are moving in the wrong direction. Ignoring it may lead to short-term satisfaction or relief, but in the long run, it will only leave us feeling disconnected from ourselves. The more we learn to trust and follow our inner voice, the more authentic, fulfilling, and meaningful our relationships will be. By doing so, we create space for love that is genuine, grounded in mutual respect, and aligned with our true selves. The idea of finding a partner who will complete us is a deeply ingrained notion in our culture. We hear it in movies, in songs, and in the stories of others, the belief that there is someone out there who will fill the void within us, making us whole. This idea often leads us to enter relationships with the subconscious expectation that our partner will be the missing piece of a puzzle, the one who will heal our wounds, or somehow make us feel complete. But the truth is, the search for completion in another person is not only unrealistic, but also deeply unfair to both ourselves and our partners. When we expect someone else to complete us, we are placing the weight of our emotional fulfillment on their shoulders, and this can create an imbalance in the relationship. No one can complete us because we are already whole. We are born with all the emotional capacity and strength we need to live fulfilling lives. Yet many of us go through life feeling incomplete, searching for something or someone to fill that gap. This feeling of incompleteness often arises from unresolved issues within ourselves, insecurities, past traumas, or unmet emotional needs. Instead of addressing these issues and finding ways to nurture our own well-being, we look to others to provide what we think is missing. We might believe that if we find the right person, everything will suddenly fall into place, that all of our doubts and fears will disappear, and that we will finally feel enough. But the reality is, expecting another person to complete us leads to dependency rather than genuine love. When we rely on a partner to complete us, we make them responsible for our emotional state. This can create an unhealthy dynamic where we begin to lose sight of our individuality and place all of our happiness in someone else's hands. It also puts undue pressure on the partner to fulfill all of our needs, making it almost impossible for them to live up to such lofty expectations. Relationships are about partnership, not rescue. When we expect someone to complete us, we are not seeing them for who they are, but rather for what we hope they can give us. This often leads to a distorted view of the relationship, where we are constantly seeking validation, reassurance, and fulfillment from someone else instead of nurturing these qualities within ourselves. The truth is, no one can ever fully fill the gaps in our lives. The idea of seeking completion in another person is based on the belief that we are lacking something essential, and that this lack can only be remedied by finding the perfect partner. But this is a dangerous mindset because it places the burden of our self-worth on someone else. True love comes from a place of self-awareness and self-love, where we are not looking for someone to complete us, but rather to complement us. We enter relationships as whole individuals, bringing our strengths and weaknesses, our passions and fears, and we seek someone who will walk beside us, not someone who will be our missing piece. When we stop seeking completion in others, we allow ourselves to embrace our own journey of growth and self-discovery. This shift in mindset allows us to recognize that fulfillment comes from within. By working on our own emotional health, addressing our insecurities, and learning to love ourselves, we create a strong foundation from which we can build healthy, balanced relationships. When we love ourselves first, we are better equipped to love others without the expectation that they will fix or complete us. The idea of seeking completion in another person also reinforces the illusion that love should be perfect and without conflict. When we believe that our partner is supposed to make us whole, we expect them to meet all of our emotional needs and make us feel good all the time. This unrealistic expectation can lead to disappointment, frustration, and resentment when things inevitably go wrong. Every relationship has its ups and downs, and no partner can be everything we want them to be. The beauty of a healthy relationship is not in the idea of completeness, but in the mutual growth, understanding, and support that both individuals bring to the table. When we stop seeking completion in others, we create space for more authentic connections. We are able to enter relationships as fully realized individuals, able to contribute to the relationship without expecting it to fulfill every need we have. We can appreciate our partner for who they are rather than for what we hope they can give us. This shift in perspective allows love to blossom naturally without the pressure of needing someone else to make us whole. In the end, the search for completion in another person only leads to disappointment and dependency. We must learn to look within ourselves for the answers, to recognize that we are already whole, and that true love comes from a place of mutual respect, understanding, and growth. When we stop seeking to be completed by someone else, we free ourselves to experience love in its most authentic and fulfilling form, a love that is rooted in self-awareness, emotional maturity, and a deep understanding of our own worth. Romanticizing red flags is a dangerous habit that many of us fall into when we're seeking a relationship. It's easy to overlook warning signs when we're swept up in the excitement of infatuation or the allure of someone who seems perfect on the surface. We tell ourselves that the small issues we notice are just quirks, that they'll improve over time, or that we can fix them. The truth is, when we romanticize red flags, we are ignoring the deeper truths about ourselves, our needs, and the nature of healthy relationships. We may convince ourselves that love will conquer all, but ignoring the signs that something isn't quite right can lead to emotional pain, resentment, and a sense of being stuck in a relationship that isn't truly serving us. Red flags are behaviors or traits that indicate potential problems in a relationship. These are not always obvious or blatant signs of toxicity, but they are the subtle clues that over time can become harmful if left unchecked. Sometimes these red flags are easy to dismiss because they don't seem to fit the narrative of what we want a relationship to look like. Maybe the person is charming and makes us feel special, so we overlook their tendency to be controlling or dismissive. Or perhaps their emotional unavailability feels like a challenge we can overcome with patience, leading us to believe that we can somehow change them or that things will improve with time. The problem with romanticizing red flags is that we allow ourselves to believe that the negative behaviors we're witnessing are temporary or excusable. We might tell ourselves that the person who constantly cancels plans is just going through a tough time, or that their jealousy is a sign of how much they care. But this kind of thinking is rooted in denial. It's a way of convincing ourselves that the relationship is worth pursuing, despite the warning signs that suggest it might not be healthy. When we romanticize these red flags, we are choosing to ignore the fundamental issue. If these behaviors are present early on, they will likely intensify over time. It's important to recognize that red flags are not about finding perfection in a partner. No one is perfect, and every relationship will come with challenges. However, there is a big difference between minor flaws that can be worked through with mutual respect and serious behaviors that signal potential harm. If a person consistently dismisses your feelings, manipulates situations to their advantage, or exhibits a lack of respect for boundaries, these are not things that should be romanticized or overlooked. When we romanticize these behaviors, we are settling for less than what we deserve, and this can set the stage for a relationship built on unhealthy patterns that are difficult to break. One of the reasons we romanticize red flags is that we often believe we can fix the other person. We tell ourselves that with enough love, patience, or understanding, the problematic behaviors will change. We might feel that the person is damaged or misunderstood and that we are the ones who can heal them. However, this approach is flawed because it places the responsibility of change on us instead of on the other person. A healthy relationship is not about trying to change or fix someone else, it's about mutual respect, support, and the willingness to grow together. Expecting someone to change to meet our expectations can lead to disappointment and frustration, as people are only capable of changing if they are willing to do so on their own. Another reason we romanticize red flags is that we fear being alone. We might feel that this person is our only chance at love, or that the flaws we see are minor compared to the potential happiness we could experience. This fear can cloud our judgment, causing us to ignore the early warning signs and convince ourselves that the relationship is worth the risk. But when we romanticize red flags, we are sacrificing our own emotional well-being in exchange for the illusion of love. A relationship based on a fear of being alone is never a healthy foundation, and it often leads to emotional pain and heartbreak in the long run. The key to avoiding the trap of romanticizing red flags is self-awareness. We must learn to trust our instincts and recognize when something doesn't feel right. If a person's behavior makes us uncomfortable or goes against our values, it's essential to listen to those feelings rather than dismiss them. Healthy relationships are built on honesty, respect, and open communication. If these fundamental aspects are missing from the start, it's unlikely that they will magically appear later on. Instead of romanticizing the red flags, we must learn to face the reality of the situation and ask ourselves if this is a relationship that supports our growth and happiness. In the end, romanticizing red flags only leads to disappointment and emotional exhaustion. It's important to remember that love is not about fixing someone or enduring unhealthy behaviors in the hope that they will change. True love is about being with someone who respects and values us for who we are, not someone whose red flags we choose to ignore. By acknowledging and addressing the warning signs early on, we can avoid unnecessary pain and build relationships that are healthy, fulfilling, and based on mutual respect. Failing to love oneself is a deeply rooted issue that many people face, yet it is often overlooked in the pursuit of love and connection with others. The idea that we can't truly give love until we first love ourselves might sound cliché, but it holds a profound truth. When we fail to love ourselves, we place unrealistic expectations on our relationships, often seeking external validation and affection to fill the emptiness within. This creates an unhealthy dynamic where we depend on others to provide the love and care we are incapable of giving ourselves. Without self-love, we are not able to fully give or receive love in a meaningful, balanced way. The absence of self-love often manifests as a lack of self-worth, where we believe that we are not deserving of love or happiness. This belief can result in unhealthy relationship patterns, where we tolerate disrespect, mistreatment, or neglect. We may stay in toxic relationships or repeatedly choose partners who do not appreciate or value us. The underlying reason for this behavior is rooted in the belief that we are not enough on our own, and we need someone else to confirm our worth. However, no amount of love or validation from others can truly heal the wounds created by a lack of self-love. The love we seek from others will always feel shallow and unfulfilling if it is not first grounded in our own self-acceptance. Failing to love oneself also prevents us from setting healthy boundaries. When we don't value ourselves, we are often afraid to speak up for our needs or desires, worried that we will lose love or approval. This fear can cause us to neglect our own emotional and physical well-being, leading us to prioritize the needs of others at the expense of our own. This pattern of self-neglect can create resentment over time and lead to feelings of burnout, as we continually give without receiving in return. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, and without the foundation of self-love, we are unable to stand up for our own needs and communicate effectively with our partners. In conclusion, failing to love oneself creates an unhealthy dynamic in relationships, where we seek validation and affection from others to fill an internal emptiness. Without self-love, we are unable to set healthy boundaries, prioritize our own needs, or show up authentically in our connections. The path to self-love involves embracing our imperfections, practicing self-care, and accepting our worth. Only by nurturing self-love can we build meaningful relationships that are grounded in mutual respect, understanding, and growth. True love begins within, and by learning to love ourselves, we can experience deeper, more fulfilling connections with others.